Shalom. Hi, everyone. We started the month of Adar this week. Now we're in Adar, and we're going to look a little bit about the actions of Adar, how to act in the month of Adar, because we're told something very weird. We're told to act happy, and we're going to explore today the idea of acting happily. And we find this idea in the Talmud, not in the context of Purim, which happens in the middle of the month of Adar, but actually in the tractate Ta'anit, which talks about fast days. And there, in the middle of a conversation about Tisha B'Av, the fast day that happens in the month of Av, we have the following statement. Rav Yehuda, son of Rav Shmuel bar Shilat, said in the name of Rav, just as when Av begins, one decreases rejoicing, so too, when Adar begins, one increases rejoicing. We have a juxtaposition of 2 months, and they have two kinds of behavior. In Av, from the beginning of Av, we decrease joy, and in Av, we increase joy. Unclear exactly what that means, how to do it, when to stop, right? We could imagine you start in Adar increasing joy and you just keep going. Don't stop at Purim, just keep going, maybe until you get to Av in the summer. There's another way to read it, by the way. Mishenichnas Adar marbin besimcha. When Adar begins, increase with joy. Okay, so as if the thing you're meant to be doing in Adar is increasing, doing things big, doing things intensely. Just do lots of intense things. And how do you do them? Do them with joy. Do intense food and intense business risks, and do all sorts of things intensely and have joy with them. But the Talmud gives us only one example of what it means to increase joy. And it's a very strange example. Rav Papa says, therefore, a Jew who has litigation with a non-Jew, let him avoid him in the month of Av, when fortune is bad, and make himself available in Adar, when fortune is good. So a Jew who needs to go to court should try and do that in Adar and not in Av. And there's a lot to unpack here in this text, and we don't have time for it here. What I really want to point out is, first of all, like we've said before, this interface of law and Purim, right? You might think that going to court is all about justice being done, and justice is about truth and law, and two cases which are identical would have the same result at the end. But no, it's not like that. It seems to be if you do it in Adar, then you'll win the case, and if you do it in Av, you'll lose the case. So law has nothing to do with truth from this statement. And the second connection is with joy, right? We have this thing about good luck and bad luck and law, and it's very strange in this context. But this is coming to illustrate something about increasing joy in our life. It seems like recognizing good luck is a way of being joyous, or something that causes joy. And it's really that question of what's the relationship between things that happen and joy that I want to spend a few more minutes looking at. Because we have that question all the time, right? When someone, I don't know, does something happy. Yeah? When someone is dancing, right? So are they happy and therefore they dance? Or they dance and therefore they're happy? Or is happiness the same thing? It's an expression of their happiness? or they're two completely different things. The outside and the inside have no relation to each other. And it's this relationship between the outside and the inside, between actions and how we are, that I think we're being asked to explore here. You can look at the source sheet to look at all the examples here, but we looked very briefly at the laws of Av, right? Because we were given this juxtaposition of Av and Adar, and we don't have so many laws of how to be happy in Adar, but we do have lots of laws of how to be unhappy or less happy in Av. And if you look at this list of laws, you see in Av, you shouldn't build buildings of joy, such as artistic buildings or decorated buildings or wedding houses. And you shouldn't do joyous planting, right? Planting trees, they shouldn't be joyous planting where you plant, I don't know, an apple tree in order to get apples. That would be, that would be an unjoyous planting. Joyous planting would be to plant an apple tree just for the sake of an apple tree, maybe to sit in the shade. And so on. There's lots of examples of what we don't do in Av, which we can understand we should be doing in Adar. And these are all examples of external things. We're not told, meditate and think about your state of happiness or unhappiness. We're told, do things, right? Plant, build, do artistic buildings, get married, haircuts, right? All of that are examples of happy acts or increased happiness. And we see that also in the Megillah. When Haman's decree to kill all the Jews in all the 127 provinces of King Ahasuerus's land, when that reaches all the lands and the Jews hear about it, it says in chapter 4 of Esther, in every province that the king's command and decree reached, there was great mourning among the Jews, with fasting, weeping, and wailing, and everybody lay in sackcloth and ashes. When Esther's maidens came and informed her, the queen was greatly agitated. She sent clothing for Mordecai to wear so that he might take off his sackcloth, but he refused. So we see here an order to the things. We have a feeling of great mourning. We have a feeling of kind of shock and sadness, and that leads them to fast, to cry, and to wear a certain kind of clothes. They wear sackcloth and ashes as a sign of their mourning. When Esther hears about it, she's vatitchalchal hamalka. It's a very embodied word. She's hurt. She feels this act, this sadness that she sees, that she's told about, and she wants to do something about it, and she sends clothes for Mordechai. So here she's trying to fix things from the outside. She sends him clothes so that he can dress in happy clothes, so that will stop his mourning. Right? That's her plan, is to work from acts on the outside. And Mordechai says, no, I don't want to go there. I don't want to do those happy acts. But we see here the power of external actions on a state of being. Right? So it might be that when we're told to increase joy in Adar, that has to be expressed on the outside rather than necessarily switching a switch and just being joyous, whatever that means. Let me give two more examples of this relationship between external and internal happiness. We have in the book of Psalms, there's 150 Psalms, and they're traditionally authored, or most of them are authored by King David. And each of the 150 Psalms has a word or a sentence at the beginning that introduces it. Okay? And the Talmud is very interested in two groups of Psalms, or two titles. One, which is Le David Mizmor, of David, a psalm, and the other is Mizmor Le David, a psalm of David. And they ask, what's the difference between these two things? Right? You might think, I don't know, they're the same, basically. Le David Mizmor, Mizmor Le David. But they say no. If it says Le David Mizmor, of David, a psalm, this teaches that the divine presence rested upon him first, and afterwards he recited the song. If, however, the psalm opens with a psalm of David, Mizmor Le David, this teaches that he first recited the song, and afterwards the divine presence rested upon him. So we have two modes of connection with God, or with divine inspiration, or with a state of being, of connection and alignment. One is you're just there. You're connected to this divine inspiration, and everything is expressed after that. You write your psalms, you say exactly what you need to be saying. The second mode is where you don't feel it. You don't feel it. And what does David do when he doesn't feel this divine connection, this divine inspiration? He writes anyway. He fakes it. He writes as if he was connected, and then at the end, after going through the motions, then the divine presence rests upon him. Then he has this divine inspiration that he needed in the first place, but he got there without it. And later on, this is a great piece to read. I recommend reading it. This is used as a kind of a model for all kinds of prophecy, and not just prophecy, how to teach and how to have dreams. Is none of that happens in an atmosphere of sadness or laziness or silliness or nothingness, kind of idle conversation, idle chatter, just meaninglessness. Only with joy. Only when you have joy, then you have this connection. And the example brought for that is the prophet Elisha, who got angry and then forgot how to be a prophet. And he needed to reconnect, he needed to relearn how to be a prophet. And he says, Kuli menagen, bring me a musician. And when the musician started playing, then the hand of God touched him. Then he was connected again. So he kind of, there's external acts that can happen that create the connection that needs to happen. And again, that's prophecy, but that's also for teaching, it's also for dreaming, it's also for living. And I think maybe that's what we're asked to do on Adar. On Adar, we're asked to fake it. To fake it till you make it, right? On Adar, we do as if. And it's not exactly, it's not a lie, right? If we're in 2021 and there's a pandemic messing up everyone's health and life and plans, and there's lots of anxiety and all these things which are happening, to be happy in Adar doesn't mean ignoring all of that. It means adding additional actions in our life where we experiment. What would it be like if I was dancing or creating or making decorative buildings or doing happy things? What would it be like if I was what would I be like if I did that? And we experiment with different actions in order to at least have the possibility to connect to that state of being, of happiness. And maybe the extreme of that is Purim. The extreme of that is Purim, where we take in all the external um, anxieties and fears from the outside, and we celebrate them. Right? Purim is a celebration of that doubt. We don't know what's going on. Na'afochu, let's rejoice. Anyway, that's a whole bunch of ideas, and really, the more we learn about Purim, the more we try and understand exactly what's going on this day, I think the more we can touch on its essence when we actually get there. Have a good week and have a happy, happy Adar.